involved. A 2020 Stanford Medical School study found that men who own a gun are 8 times more likely to die of a gun-related suicide than those who don't have a firearm. With women, they are 35 times more likely to die of a gun-related suicide than those who don't have a firearm. These are alarming and important statistics, and we can do something about it. We need to acknowledge and act on the link between firearms and suicides. This bill does that and takes a step toward helping people, allowing someone who knows that they're struggling with their mental health to voluntarily enroll themselves onto a do not sell list, preventing them from purchasing a gun until they remove themselves from the list. This really sensible bipartisan bill is a smart solution that puts no onus on anyone. It simply allows someone to make a decision for themselves to protect their own life. Sadly, we all have constituents or family members or friends who have lost a loved one by suicide using a firearm. This legislation allows us to do something about it. And you know, some people say, well, the figure that the sponsor, Congresswoman Jayapal, mentioned was too high a number. I'm from a religious tradition that if we save one life by this passage of this bill, we've saved everyone. And so to the families and loved ones who have had to deal with the unbearable pain of losing a loved one to suicide by using a firearm, this is a welcome action that hopefully can prevent others from confronting the same heartbreak. So I want to thank Congresswoman Jayapal for her thoughtful leadership on this bill. It will help reduce the number of people that we are tragically losing to suicide every single day in this country. I support this legislation strongly and urge my colleagues to do the same, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Who seeks recognition? Gentleman from Kentucky.
I have an amendment at the desk.
I reserve a point of order, Mr. Chairman.
The clerk will report the amendment. Point of order is reserved.
Amendment to the amendment in the nature of a substitute to H.R. 8361 offered by Mr. Massie of Kentucky. Page 9, after line 24, insert the following. Section 6, criminal penalties for
Amendment will be
coercing.
considered as read. The gentleman has 5 minutes to explain his amendment.
Thank the chairman for allowing me to offer this amendment. This addresses one of the concerns I have. This basically says that there's a criminal penalty for somebody who coerces an individual to add their name to the voluntary purchase delay database. Obviously, it's not voluntary if you've been coerced, and this is a legitimate concern. Somebody on the other side of the aisle just said, if this bill saves just one life, it's worth passing. Well, if this bill costs one life, it's worth stopping. Somebody in an abusive relationship could be forced to submit their name to this list, and then the abuser knows that that person has no means to acquire a firearm for self-defense. And so that's just one of the dozens of permutations of ways this legislation could turn out bad and cost lives. So this amendment would set up a criminal penalty for coercing individuals to add his or her name to the voluntary.
The gentleman yields.
I will yield to the ranking member.
So you made me think of something. Or maybe someone said this to me yesterday as we were talking about this bill. Let's just say a lady in an abusive relationship, she may actually have some mental concerns at that time, and she may actually support this. But once the husband's gone or the boyfriend or what's gone, the ability to then get back off the list and all the problems, that could be a situation where this bill, I think, would be problematic for that particular person as well. Would you agree? I
would agree, and I'm going to have another amendment to try and address this situation as well. And I thank the gentleman for his point. You know, later today, we're going to be debating a resolution of inquiry about these documents that the FBI agents presented to people, at least 15 individuals, where between 2016 and 2019 received documents called NICS Indices Self-Submission Form. And if you signed this form, it resulted in the denial of your right to purchase or possess a firearm. And the question is, were these forms presented under duress? Did somebody at the FBI say, You sign this form or I'm going to arrest you. You sign this form or I'm going to investigate you. This isn't a hypothetical. This is the subject of something later today, one of the ROIs that we're going to debate, HRES 1477, a concern, a concern that we have that people under threat, under duress, were forced to put their name on a list that says they can't buy a gun. So this amendment is simple. I would hope we get support from the other side of the aisle on this, that there should be, and I don't like adding criminal penalties to the federal code, but this is one of those places where it's called for. If you're going to have this bill, I don't support the underlying bill at all, but if you're going to have this bill, at least don't create the situation where people can be coerced into adding their name to the database and become deprived of their Second Amendment. I'll yield to the gentleman from North Carolina.
I just have a question. I noticed that the amendment would address efforts to use force or threat of force to induce an individual to add their name to the database, but even this wouldn't extend to someone who might use undue influence. Isn't that correct?
That's absolutely correct. My amendment doesn't go far enough in preventing this. It's a very modest proposal. It only covers a subset of my concerns, and that's why I hope the other side.
Will the gentleman yield?
I think the gentleman will yield.
Will the gentleman yield?
I'll yield to the chairman.
Thank you. Does the gentleman insist on his point of order?
I do not, Mr. Chairman.
Point of order is reserved, and we are prepared to accept the amendment. Oh,
I was just going to
Ms.
speak
Jayapal?
to it, yeah.
I'm sorry, Ms. Jayapal's
All
ready.
right, well,
Thank you.
wait
a minute.
just a second.
Yeah, Mr.
Does
Massie.
anybody else on our side want any time? I will yield back the balance of my time.
The gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank Representative Massie for this amendment. I don't see a problem with this amendment because I think this would be a problem if this happened. And I hope, Mr. Massie, that in taking this amendment, that you will vote for the bill. It's a bipartisan bill. I know that there's a real desire on this committee to offer amendments and then assume that the other side's not going to take it. But we're working on a bill that is actually substantive policy and good bipartisan policy. And so I hope that you will enter this into the same spirit that I do on behalf of our constituents across the country who lose families to gun suicides. I think this is a fine amendment. The one friendly amendment I might ask you if you want to make is in line 7, just to say, so it would read, whoever by force or threat of force induces an individual to add the name of the individual who is otherwise authorized to possess a firearm, because I think we are assuming that this person would be authorized to possess a firearm. But I'm fine with this amendment with that line, small line change.
I'm fine with that.
This is beautiful to watch, this bipartisan.
So beautiful to watch, Representative
Let's model
Massie.
this behavior.
And I can't wait to get you on this bill, because really, let me just say, because I think it's still my time, let me just say, look, we do try to legislate here with people who want to legislate and people who want to help save lives. And I take it in the spirit that's the way it was offered, Mr. Massie, and I appreciate your amendment.
So with that, I'll call for a vote on the amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Oh. Do we do that by unanimous consent? We could, yes. I'll ask unanimous consent to amend the amendment as was specified a moment ago.
Yes, well, I have opportunity to speak.
On that?
Yes.
Gentleman is recognized.
And I'll be brief. I thank the gentlelady for agreeing that I have improved this bill, but I regret to say I haven't improved it enough.
What a surprise, Mr. Massie.
With that,
What a shocker.
I will yield back.
All right.
And I do not object.
So without objection, the amendment is amended. All in favor of the amendment as amended will say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment as amendment is adopted.